Welcome to our podcast, Doing It Right. This podcast reveals authentic stories from successful leaders doing it right. It's about their journey to become a leader, their choices, motivations, and lessons. In essence, how they built successful personal brands. Your host is Valerie Sokolowski, author of 8 leadership books and nationally known as an authority on executive presence and personal branding. Let's get started. Here's Valerie.
You talk about having a guest that does it right. I have with me today my boss, kind of, the man who owns this puppy, Jeff Crilley.
Thank you.
Who is the CEO of Real News PR. And I can't wait for you, especially entrepreneurs, to listen up because he is one and he's been extremely successful. And I really want you to listen to how he's done this. He will leave us with some teachable points of view, what he's learned in the hard times, the scars to prove it, and all of that. Jeff, welcome.
I'm thrilled to be here. Do you know this is the first because I've had the studios now for over a year, and this is the first time that I've ever been interviewed in my own studios.
Is it really?
Yes.
Oh, we've got to put that up as a legacy for sure. Well, I thought it would be so fun. And you know, I'm remembering, Jeff, when I first knew you, you were the Emmy Award winning anchor on Fox. And I watched you, I did, as the anchor, and you had a really wonderful career, which I want you to talk about. And then, fast forward to, about 6 years ago or so, I heard you speak, which you'd been doing anyway. And here's what I remember, Jeff. I remember sitting on the front row, which I never do. I told you that. I never sit on the front row. But for some reason that day I did. And you were so engaging, so inspiring, so knowledgeable and funny. I found myself laughing and leaning in.
Thank you.
So, first of all, this is what started this business. So Jeff, just how did you go from being an anchor to what you're doing now with this book?
Well, thank you, and I'm thrilled to be on the show. So I wrote the book in 2002, and forgive the airbrushing. People now say, Jeff, is that your son?
Yes,
no.
It's you. It's you.
So I wrote the book in 2002 while still a reporter at Channel 4, and I was moonlighting. My bosses at Channel 4 didn't know how busy I was, but I was doing 300 speeches a year for 6 straight years. I sold 70,000 copies of that book out of the trunk of my car. Just breakfast speech, lunch speech, go to work at Channel 4. Breakfast speech, lunch speech, go to work at Channel 4. So along the way, as I'm signing people's books, they're complaining about their PR firm, or they're saying something like, Jeff, I don't have time to do any of this stuff. Could I just hire you? And I'd say, no, I'm on TV. I can't take your money. I'll just give you free advice. And they'd say, all right, give me free advice. I'd say, what are you trying to promote? They would tell me. I'd say, well, that's easy. There's a writer with the Dallas Morning News. Call her up. Give her this, this, and this. That's your pitch, and you'll get in the paper. And then 2 or 3 days later, they're calling me up on a Sunday morning saying, Jeff Crilley, you're a genius. Do you get the Sunday Dallas Morning News? Go out on your driveway, see who's on the front page of the Sunday Dallas Morning News. And I would see a face that I recognized from a speech, and I just started to think to myself, you know what? I think I have a second act. I think if I started a all journalist PR firm, I think I could really make a difference in my industry. And so I started this company in my home in 2008, 1 month before the housing bubble burst. Who knew, right?
Oh.
And then now I wake up and we have 19 employees and somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 clients between podcasting, broadcasting, and PR, and I love my life.
You know what, Jeff? It didn't just happen, though. There were things along the way that I know you do so differently, and one of them is connecting the dots, exactly what you talked about. So what is it about you personally as a CEO that you're teaching these 19 people how to do?
I want it to be a thank God it's Monday company. I really do. You know, everybody has a thank God it's Friday company. I like to think that I have a thank God it's Monday company.
Great.
I'll tell you a story. One of our employees went off and got married, and she was gone for 2 weeks. and the employee sitting right next to her was sad. I mean, you could tell that there was a depression there because her work friend was gone. And I love that because it just tells me what a good job we've done creating a culture where mostly millennials, I'm the old guy, mostly millennials are kind of running the company. And I like that. I like to be the owner of the company. I hate to run the company. So I've divested those responsibilities to others, and now I just get to come in every day and tell people what a great job they're doing, and I love my life.
Isn't that wonderful? Not everyone does at work, and so it's wonderful to do that.
Thank you.
About culture, though, how would you describe the culture now?
So we went through many, many changes to get to the point where we are now, and I remember a time when we only had 7 employees and nobody was getting along, and we actually had to bring in a workplace culture expert to get 7 people to get along. And I was walking from the parking garage to the building, and I had a knot in my stomach, and as I'm walking into work one morning, I said to myself, I don't want to come to work today. And just hearing myself say that was like, Jeff, if you own the company and you don't want to go to work at your own company, your company is sick. And what it turned out to be was just one employee that didn't fit. And that employee left, and everything changed around. And the promise I made to myself at that moment was, I'm never going to allow my company to get sick again. It should be a place where people thrive, and I'm not a micromanager. I just want great employees who come to work every day with a smile on their face.
Like you do.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a company where you can innovate and create, and so the managers have all been encouraged to allow people to amaze us. You know, we hire people and say, just be brilliant and surprise us to the upside, and that's what we love.
That's what people want. They want to be valued for what they bring.
Yes.
You just gave us one lesson right there, which is if you have someone that needs to go now.
Right, right.
So I know from experience that in working with companies in coaching or training that it's very difficult for leaders to cut the cord.
Yes.
And I can't remember the statistics now. The latest ones are saying more and more people are learning how to cut the cord faster because of exactly what you're saying.
Yes.
So I like that. So, Jeff, you're probably one of the most giving people I know.
Thank you.
You give advice. I mean, we sat down here and you immediately started giving me some tips and have you thought abouts, and where did that come from?
That's my dad.
Is it?
That's my dad, and he's still alive and well. My mom alive and well. They retired in Waco, and my father was a minister, and my mom was a secretary at a hospital. And my father is just the kind of person who would start a conversation with the person at the checkout counter, and if he saw something that he could help them with, he would offer his advice. So I think I love my dad so much, and just giving him advice, channeling him and trying to help people is what gets me out of bed in the morning.
And when you help other people, it comes back tenfold, doesn't it?
Yes, it really does. That's what Zig Ziglar said.
He did.
You can have anything you want as long as you help
other
others
people
get what they want first.
So there's another lesson, right? All right, so your company is so different, and you have all the elements. What are the elements now that the expanse of everything that you offer?
Well, so what's happened recently, and as an entrepreneur, I'm starting to reimagine my own company. So the broadcast division has grown so rapidly. 1 year ago, we were doing 2 shows. We're now doing something in the neighborhood of 56 shows, including the one that we're on right now.
I'm one of 56.
And so, and that's organic growth. So what happens is guests of shows will look around and say, well, how does this work? Could I have my own show? And the next thing you know, they're getting a tour of the studios. And so as a owner of a small business, I thought to myself recently, the whole company has been like pushing a boulder up a hill for 10 years. But when the broadcast division started, I felt like the boulder got to the top of the hill, and now it's starting to roll down. And so I'm imagining now myself as the owner of a television network, because that's what this is. We started calling it podcasting, and then sometimes I found myself saying radio. But some of our studios, this one included, looks like television. So I see it as a television network where anybody can walk in off the street and have their own show. I think wisely we've matched our clients who do shows up with producers who know the business. I like to hire from the media. There's a work ethic, there's a hunger that comes from the media. So of the 19 employees, 15, 16 I believe came from the media, mostly television and radio. But there's kind of a kick in the door mentality that happens when you're from the media. It's a lot of companies are slow. They like to think about stuff. They like to have meetings and write white papers, and I'm like,
flip charts.
Yeah, let's go. So one of the reasons why your show is so wonderful is not only your talent, but the talent behind the scenes. We've got Derek running the board today, and Derek came from Channel 33. He was an editor and technician over at Channel 33, so he's dealt with pressure before, and so the pressure of broadcast television really prepares you for anything.
Anything, for sure. Have there been times you've been stressed?
I still get stressed, but I now say to myself, because I have a management team, if you, Jeff Crilley, feel stressed, it's your own fault. Because you have others that you pay that can take that stress away. So if, let's suppose, a client calls with a problem, I can solve the problem, but if solving the problem takes me out of my happy place, maybe I shouldn't solve the problem. Maybe I should take that problem and give it to one of my managers and say, you know what, can you get back with him as soon as possible and try and solve this problem? Because I want to stay in my happy bubble. And my happy bubble is I love being the strategist, I love being the evangelist, and I love being the head sales guy.
And you are.
Well, thank you. I remember
it's your name on the door.
I remember one time I had a vice president who said, I would like to help you with sales. And I said, no, that's my joy. Why would I let you do sales? That's my fun. And so being clear on what gives me joy versus what drains my joy is another secret. That
is another secret. So on that note, think about the anchors now. It's so different, Jeff, than when you were an anchor. Where is their joy? Where is their happy place? What's happening?
So the news is changing quite a bit in the last 10 years from when I was in it. And I remember news was somewhat in decline when I was in the business. I remember years in which I was working the night shifts, so I was 2 to 11. And at the end of the year, we would look for something to submit for an award. And I would ask my night side photographer, do we have anything that we're proud of for this year, anything that we should enter? And the photographer would look at me and say, I can't think of anything.
Interesting.
In a whole year of doing news, I had nothing to enter a contest. And that was just a signal to me that I was chasing murders and fires and doing, kind of the lowest common denominator news. And this is, 2008. So the complaint I hear from my friends in the news business is that they don't feel like they're often given a chance to do meaningful stories that make a difference. And so news directors, I would advise news directors to really, you got to cover the murders, you got to cover the fires, but you also have to let your storytellers tell stories that give them life,
right,
that give them joy, and so
that's missing.
Yeah, it really is.
And it's missing for us who are watching it.
I think so.
What's the greatest compliment anyone has given you?
I love it when people remember a story that I did long, long ago. So I had a series of reports. It was just the happy side of the news in the late 90s. All I did was feature stories. I just made people smile. And the segment was called Really Crilley. And so,
Really Crilley.
And this is like 20 years ago. But every once in a while, somebody will come up to me and say, Really Crilley. I remember your Really Crilley segment. And that was 2 decades ago. For somebody to actually remember that is flattering. That think about how many things have happened in the last 2 decades that they saved like 3 brain cells to remember Really Crilley.
Now, isn't that another lesson for entrepreneurs? So, I do a lot of personal branding, leadership branding.
Yes.
And to have something that's easy to remember, something that you consistently say over and over again, if it's something that you really believe in.
Yes.
That's a great tip.
I think so too.
That's a great tip. It happened when I named the show. I named the show, of course, after Do It Right book.
Yes, yes.
And my daughter said, well, Mom, what do you do? And I said, well, I do, in business. And finally she said, Mom, you teach people to do it right. Isn't that it?
Love
How
that.
to do leadership right. And I said, yes. So why don't you just call it Doing It Right? And I'm like, oh, well, wouldn't that be unique?
It's a great brand.
And so we need to come up with our own brands,
Yes,
right?
yes.
When you think about the down times of stress, how do you, being so happy all the time, how do you handle that stress? Because we all have it.
I like to work out.
Do you?
Workout is a good stress reliever. If I get worn down, I can tell that I need more sleep, and so I try to listen to my body. And on those days where I'm just weary and I can't find the joy, that's a signal to me that you're allowing your body to wear down. So if you're like me, you're watching at home, and you're like me, listen to your body. Your body is telling you things. If you don't have the energy to do something, you probably need more sleep. So
something as simple as sleep.
Correct.
Rest.
Yes.
When you get up in the morning, what's the first thing you do?
So I get up at 4 in the morning. Every single day.
And why?
And on the weekends I sleep until 6, but I have a daily email that goes out to 20,000 journalists across the country. They're print, radio, television, bloggers, producers all over the country, and I'm giving them story ideas that they can use that day. And I've been so faithful to this. I have not missed a morning in a decade.
That's amazing.
Not Christmas Day, not New Year's Day. This thing goes out. And I've taken it as a solemn oath. I feel like I'm a newspaper publisher. I mean, there's not a day when the Dallas Morning News is not going to come out. It's going to come out.
It's going to come out.
And so by making that commitment that I will do this every single day, and you have to imagine there were days when I was sick in the last 10 years where I probably didn't feel 100%, probably didn't want to do it. By putting it out, by the time I come into work at 8:30, 9 in the morning, I've already been working for 4 or 5 hours, and I don't think anybody can expect a company to work harder than the CEO. The CEO should set the standard for the company. So, and that's my joy. People have said, "Hey, couldn't you hire somebody to do that?" And I tell people that's my crossword puzzle. That's my joy.
I like that. So I don't know that everyone knows that, but think about, I'm just saying to you listeners, think about getting up every day and making sure that you know what's going on all over the world and capturing those main things that need to be talked about. But here's the connecting the dots piece. What I know about that is then, what do you do with that information? You send it out to the press?
Yep.
And then what?
So I send this daily email out to these journalists, and I put the expert's name and cell phone in there. So there have been times when I've put you out there on etiquette issues, and your phone starts ringing. I would ask you, what's your record for most interviews in a 24-hour, 48-hour period?
Oh my goodness. Always during the holidays. You still put me out there.
Yep.
So all during the holidays, people want to know how to do it right with their gift giving or taking things back or going to social events and having to, all those, yes. So I would say the most I've had over the years, Jeff, is probably 20 interviews.
That's amazing.
Within like 2 days.
Wow.
And again, what listeners don't know, is that means that I have to be ready at 6 a.m.
Yep.
And I am on the phone, sitting at the desk, call after call after call, and it says, Valerie, okay, now we have stations on. Here, this is Valerie, and then boom, there it's on, and then another one, and then another one, you get a little punchy. But you do that so well, and I'm bringing it up because it goes back to your gift. It is a gift to be able to connect the dots. So what's the funniest thing in one of those events where you've had to connect the dot with, like, how in the world am I going to get this person on the air?
I did have a situation where in my morning email, I put the wrong person's phone number in. And so this guy, who I think he was a financial planner, was getting a lot of calls for a doctor. He was like, Jeff, he says, I can fake a lot of stuff, but I can't be an MD. So I said,
gosh.
No, don't do those interviews. Don't be giving medical advice on the air.
So now, what are your goals? Let's say for the next 5 years, because you've grown. So how long did it take you from 7 to 19? How many years?
So it's been 11 years. In May, it'll be 11 years.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
What's your goal for the next 5 years?
I'd like to see the company double or triple again. Now, bigger's not better. Bigger isn't better if it means more stress or if it means a lack of excellence. So there's certain things that I'm really passionate about, and I think it's one of the reasons the company is so successful, is I'm a big excellence guy.
You are.
So I couldn't be a PR firm or a broadcast network that was just trying to, stack them deep, sell them cheap, get people in and have bad quality.
Right.
So the team knows that we stand for excellence. Every single employee is all about problem solving for the client. I had a experience the other day where, Facebook went down. You remember this?
Yes.
Facebook went down, and there was a client who had a broadcast that was supposed to go out, and because Facebook went down, it was not going out, and the client was frustrated. And without me asking, my daughter Sarah, who's vice president of the company, and another employee stayed late to make sure that particular program got out as soon as Facebook came back again. And the client came up to me with kind of tears in her eyes, saying, "Thank you so much for the dedication to stay there after hours." I think it was like 8:30 at night before they finally got it out. And I didn't ask Sarah to do that. I didn't ask the employees to do that. That was their commitment to excellence that made that happen. And that to me is the mark of a great company, is if everybody knows who the CEO is and what the CEO stands for, and they know that excellence is a priority, then they all own that. And I'm constantly, I love to be surprised. So we're bragging on Derek. Derek did a show open for a show called Purple Tales. It's the guy who was inside the Barney suit for 22 years has a show here in our network. And
know that.
Derek did a great job. He put together this show open, and it was so slick and so smooth that I looked at it and I said, did we do that? Are we able to do that? And it turns out that, yeah, we have that kind of talent.
Kudo, Derek.
And Derek put that together, and now when I give the tour, and Derek's used to it now, when I come up to his office, he says, okay, this must mean I got to show the Barney clip again. But I think that's another secret of success, is that you make sure that you let employees know when they do a great job. Let them know that they're doing a great job.
Well, that's important. And what do you do when they don't?
To be honest with you, I have shielded myself from that. Because I have managers now that can do that, I remove myself from that, because I feel like it takes me out of my happy place to be the disciplinarian. I don't want to play that role. As a father, I was always the candy man, and I got that from my dad, who was always the candy man.
Was he?
And so it's not fun to discipline people.
No.
So I mean, if I see something that's not right, I will tell one of the managers and say, hey, we should address that. But that allows me to continue to be the candy man and just hand out compliments instead of, discipline.
Well, Jeff, I'm awfully proud of you, and it's a joy to be able to be a part of the family. What would you leave with any listener who thinks they want to be in media? Now, that's the ocean. I want to be in media. What should they study? What should they do? How should they discern what part of media? Give them some advice.
First, I think you have to have a message and a burning desire. I mean, if you don't have that fire in your belly to do something, it's not going to be great. And so you want to say to yourself, okay, being in the media, that means a lot of stuff. What does that mean?
It does.
Conservative talk show host, TV broadcaster, TV reporter, having a show like you have. But this show gives you joy. So I would use you as an example. You found a subject, you're genuinely interested in people. You and I forgot that we're on the air because we're so into this conversation. Mm-hmm. You're doing it right. And by choosing a show and a subject that lights your fire, you're absolutely doing it right.
So pick something that really lights your fire.
Absolutely.
And I think that's one of the hardest things for entrepreneurs to figure out is what's my happy place. Jeff, thank you so much. You're just the best.
Thank you.
And for all of you, I want you to watch all of the podcasts here on RNCN because they're all good. And it's interesting to think, no, you don't have to be in broadcasting to do something like this. You just have to have a great idea and be willing to put it out there and put the time. I will say this, on this show or on anything you do, recognize it's called work because it's work. You don't just show up and start talking, do you?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So for those of you who are our loyal listeners, I'm going to give you an offer here, something free. I want you to go to the podcast, particularly this one. I want you to subscribe, rate, review, and share. And send me, if you want a great article that I've written, it's a business quiz on entrepreneurship. I'll send it to you if you will just put in the subject line, did it. That tells me, be honest, that you subscribed, rated, reviewed, and shared. And I'll send you that article. Until next time, stay authentic and keep doing it right. Bye for now.
Thanks for listening. To receive Valerie's voice, free monthly leadership tips, and to learn more about her leadership programs and coaching, visit her website, valerieandcompany.com. Next week, we'll be here again to inspire, engage, and equip you with teachable points of view from successful leaders who have been doing it right. Until then, lead authentically.